We are live, episode number 2 of the Sprint Right Option podcast, part of the Blue Wire Hustle Network. I am Andrew Pasquini, Jason Aponte. How are you doing on this? It's Friday night now, Friday night over in New Jersey, Friday night, I guess, in Sacramento, California. How you doing today?
I'm great. I was gonna say, do the days change with the hours? Like, I'm trying to keep up with you guys because it's a 3-hour difference. But now the days, man, this is gonna be hard.
Yeah, I mean, I guess since it's Friday here, it's still Friday there. I guess the only time we get a little, we should do a 9:00 p.m. West Coast time podcast, just so then like you're in the future. Like maybe what we'll do is Sunday night at 9:30 p.m. we'll do another 49ers Bills preview, but since it'll be Monday your time, you can actually tell us who won.
Oh, and then hindsight's beautiful because then I could be correct as opposed to picking the Rams last week and then eating crow.
Hey, I think a lot of people picked the Rams to win that game, but since I don't predict the final scores anymore, I did get the spread right. I had the Niners covering the 6.5, and they covered the 6.5 by winning the game. So technically I went 1 for 1 on my picks. That's why I picked the spread now. So then if I'm wrong on the actual game pick, I can still say I'm right in terms of picking the spread correctly.
Let me ask you a question. Did you actually put money down and bet yourself?
No, I first of all, when I do bet, I don't bet on my favorite teams. Just plain and simple because too much emotion.
I like that.
But as I said, I don't want to predict final scores anymore as much because that's just me pulling numbers out of my you-know-what. And there's no reason. Like if I pick the 49ers 34, Bills 31, there's no rhyme or reason to those numbers. It's just me picking numbers. So I decided for our predictions, I go with the spread. Okay. Just it's a little easier and it makes more sense. So speaking of the Bills, Jason and I were here to talk about the 49ers game, obviously. And I went through a lot of Buffalo Bills stuff, a lot of Bills. I feel like I know the Bills inside out. And the biggest takeaway I had from the Buffalo Bills, and maybe Jason, you'll agree with me, is that no one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills.
Oh my goodness. Did you guys see how long he did the setup for that? Like he was setting that one up and, buckle up guys. I have a feeling that won't be the last time. And, if you guys want to be, for anybody following along, listening on an audio podcast, hopefully you're not driving. If you're home, here's the drinking game. Whenever he does it, take a shot.
Yes.
May the odds forever be in your favor.
Well, it's very fitting that this is actually a Monday Night Football game, right?
Yeah.
Because Chris Berman, when he was a mainstay at ESPN, I know he does significantly less than he used to, for his season previews, his Super Bowl prediction year in and year out would be the 49ers versus the Bills. So I want to make a petition that with this being a Monday night game, this is the first ever, according to the Sprint Right Option podcast, because I know the 49ers and Bills have played. I don't think anybody's put this name. This is the Chris Berman Bowl.
Nice. I love it. And you know what? Make sure you give credit where it's due when you use it.
And yes, and the winner gets to hear how Chris Berman was at the game of the catch. So that's a Chris Berman thing too.
Isn't that something that he has done? Like he's told that story 800 times?
Oh yeah. Oh, every time he talks about the Niners, he says, and I was at the game, the catch. And by the way, Sprint Right Option podcast. Hey, there's a plug. But yeah, no. So the Chris Berman Bowl, 49ers versus the Bills. There is some injury related news, and that news is it actually looks pretty good. Pretty good. Brandon Ayuk, full practice today. He just came off the COVID list. DJ Jones, full practice. Emmanuel Mosley, limited practice with a hamstring. Deebo Samuel did not practice yesterday. He was a full participant today with the hamstring injury. Jordan Willis, just coming off the COVID list as well. He was a full participant in practice. K'Wan Williams did not practice. We kind of expected that at this point. So the Niners looking relatively healthy with what they have. Obviously, there's the big misses like Garoppolo and Kittle, and Bosa, they're still out with injuries that, they've been dealing with a while. So in terms of what the current 49ers are, this is a healthy 49er team.
Yeah, I mean, the only one that kind of is concerning is just the Emmanuel Mosley one, limited. I forget who tweeted it, saying that he was running off on the side. So if he's not allowed to go, Akello Weatherspoon is actually there's been rumblings that he might be active this week, so he might be pressed into duty as well too. So that's a little bit interesting, maybe something to keep your eye on. The 49ers don't have to release their full injury report. Or what the game designations are, I should say, until tomorrow, because it's a Monday Night Football game. Everybody else is, since they're playing Sunday, they had to put out their full injury reports today and the designations for everybody going into the game. So we'll know a little bit more tomorrow. I know that's weird, especially with the timing of our show, because usually Friday is when we get our last injury updates and we're able to speak on it. But this is probably as close as it's going to get. And I mean, for the 49ers, it looks like Debo, Ayuk, everybody else is going to be a go. Just keep your eye on the Mosley thing.
And the thing with the cornerback too, I mean, Akello Witherspoon's probably going to have to be active from this point on.
Yeah.
With the Jamar Taylor injury, because the 49ers entering Monday night, I know K1's probably not going to play. They're going to have 5 cornerbacks on their roster: Richard Sherman, Jason Verrett, Emmanuel Mosley, Dante Johnson, and then Akello Witherspoon. So Witherspoon's probably going to have to play at some point here in the coming weeks. So that this is really going to be one of those games that we're going to have to see what the Niners secondary can do. Jamar Taylor, like he came on a little late. I think he got his first snaps midway through the season, and he's ended up being pretty good. He's obviously out for the season now, which, by the way, Nick Mullins talking about that during his press conference goes to show how tight this team is, which is always cool to see. But yeah, so the cornerbacks get used to seeing Akello Witherspoon at least until but K'Waun Williams comes back healthy. So the cornerbacks are going to be the cornerbacks, and at least with the Niners, I guess if we're talking the Niners injury report, they won't have to deal with John Brown. John Brown is out on Monday night, so that's one less weapon for Josh Allen. Other than that, not much coming out of the Bills injury report.
They're relatively healthy.
Yeah, Mario Addison, one of their better players on defense. He was a DNP on Thursday. There's been no status update on him, but it says knee/veteran rest, so he should be good to go. The other names on the injury list for the Bills: Josh Allen was a full practice. Jake Fromm was limited. He's probably going to be inactive anyways. Reggie Gilliam, he's full practice with a hamstring. Taiwan Jones, full practice with a hamstring as well. And then John Feliciano, guard, foot injury, full participant in practice. So the Bills coming in pretty healthy.
Right.
And I guess we'll start there because you did look at Bills tape.
I did.
What stood out? I know you and I went over it a little bit as well, looking at what the Chargers did successfully in the run game. And the Bills are the 7th worst defense in the league against the run. And hey, look at that. The Niners, when they're healthy, they're one of the best running teams in the league. So how do you see the Niners? I guess we'll start with that since the Niners offense is so run dependent. How do you see the Niners attacking this Bills defense?
So here's the thing too, and then a little bit about what you were saying about who's going to be playing nickel corner. Like I just wonder how much more we'll see Jimmy Ward just covering the slot, even on base downs, right? Like where they'll have the 2 safeties, but he'll be playing in the slot. So I wanted to see how they're going to utilize him. But that's a great point about Akello Witherspoon. I just didn't want to get that glossed over. Like now he has to be pressed into duty at this point. So just some quick stats before, I get into what I thought I saw. So, yards allowed per game, for both teams, the 49ers are 6th in the league with, 315.2, and the Bills are actually 21st, 373, yards per game. Pass yards allowed, the 49ers are 4th, 206 yards per game, and the Bills are 18th, 243 yards per game. Rushing yards allowed, the 49ers are 10th at 108, and the Bills are 25th at 129. The points allowed, it's the 49ers are 11th at 23, and the Bills are 18th at 25. So do you guys see the pattern here? The Bills have faced some pretty stiff competition, right? The Chargers have a really good offense. The Chiefs have a really good offense. At points they face good defenses, good offenses. But for the most part, what I watched last week against the Chargers was, the Chargers don't run necessarily the same running scheme as the 49ers, but they employ a lot of the same things that the 49ers do. For the one play that we went over, right? The center pulls into the hole, the fullback follows behind, and Eckler gets 5, like that. Those sort of little things are the way the 49ers should attack. The only thing that's really got me a little bit nervous now that I've had a chance to really think about it is whether they're good or bad on defense is one thing. What's going to happen if they just completely sell out to stop the run and then, it's all on Nick. Now, this Aiyuk and Debo thing is really going to help, with that. But if I'm the Bills, even still with both of them back, I have to put everybody in the box and say, what are you going to do, Nick? Like, beat us that way, So yes, while there's an advantage there, I wouldn't be surprised if you see the Bills play better than they normally do on defense. Like if we all of a sudden see them locking up a little bit better than they have against other people, it's because, the Chargers threaten you vertically. They had to keep people back, and unfortunately that's not something the 49ers do unless it's play action. Having said that, the thing that I looked at that I really thought that the 49ers can attack with is the way the Rams run. Obviously the offenses are the same way. So I kind of went and I looked at, obviously they're the same thing basically, right? An offshoot. So I felt like that was a place to watch to see where the 49ers can attack because the 49ers aren't like the Cardinals in any way. Like that offense doesn't apply. That's not how they'll attack. Once the running game got going against the Bills, Jared Goff was able to kill them with play action. And we all know that he's better off play action. And just like pretty much every quarterback on our roster is the same way. So if the 49ers are able to get the running game going, the play action will be there for them for sure. But aside from Tre'Davious White, this team can be passed on and this team can be run on, and I think that's what makes this matchup so intriguing. It's just I wonder how much they'll sell out to stop the run.
Yeah, and this is the fifth time on the season. It doesn't really feel like it, but this is the fifth time on the season that Brandon Aiyuk and Deebo Samuel are active in the same game. Right. Weeks 4, 5, 6, and 7. Niners went 2-2 in those games. It was the Eagles, Dolphins, the Patriots, and Rams games those were the only 4 games they've been active together. This game is going to be big on them because I have a feeling the Bills realize the Niners are going to try and run the ball. They're going to try and sell out. This is because you're not going to see too many unless Shanahan really surprises us and tries some deep shots. Mm-hmm. This is going to be an extended run game for Aiyuk and Deebo, and I mean that's fine. I mean, right. Nick Mullins, as long as we say this every week, as long as he doesn't turn the ball over, they are fine. And that stat lied a little bit last week because I think Mullins he only had the interception. I don't think he lost a fumble, did he? He only had 1 interception. The Niners turned the ball over as a team 3 times. So I mean, the 1 interception I'll gladly take because that was more of a fluke play. I mean, not a fluke play because Aaron Donald's the best defensive player in the league and he got a hand on it. So we're going to have to see that extended run game for the 49ers and see if Aiyuk and Deebo can control it. It's going to be really big on them. I mean, the Bills don't give up a lot of passing yards. They gave up 362 to the Seattle Seahawks. They gave up 311 to the Dolphins, 311 to the Rams. But other than that, it's all under 300. They float around that 250 to 300 yards. Now, is that something Nick Mullins can do? Probably not by himself. He's going to have a lot of help in the yards after catch area because they're not going to take a lot of deep shots. I could see them trying to test Bourne in the middle of the field every so often because that's where he likes to live. And I expect to see Jordan Reed get a lot of targets as well. Because, I mean, if you look at the numbers last week, I think Jordan Reed had the second most targets last week. I might be wrong on that. He was high in targets. I'm looking at it now. Deebo had 13 targets, and Jordan Reed was second with 6. So I'm sure Deebo probably won't see as many targets with Aiyuk coming back. But I'm curious to see how they use Jordan Reed against the Bills.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's where they should attack. AJ Klein had a really good game last week. And I think they can be. You can beat them in coverage against their linebackers and their secondary. Josh Norman was starting opposed, across from Tre'Davious White, right? Yeah. I don't even think he's going to be active in this game. So, that should tell you where their depth is at this point, at that point, right? But, the thing that I noticed too is we talk about Josh Allen's, growth, and it's there. He definitely has grown, obviously. He's not, he's getting better with accuracy. I'm trying to phrase it the right way. He's being more accurate, but he still has those moments where you're just not, oh, I kind of see what you were looking at. What were you looking at right there? What were you thinking? And the Chargers game had plenty of those things, but they also had a Bosa in this game. And my goodness, Joey Bosa last week was just he was all over the place in this game.
Mm-hmm.
But the point really being is that Josh Allen being forced into don't read him. I know what you're laughing at already, but
I had a joke in my head.
All right, but
you said the Chargers had a Bosa, and just like in that scene, we have an army, we have a Hulk, they have a Bosa.
They have a Bosa.
We have a hider.
I love it. But that's what I was about to say.
Yes.
Right. So this is the way, right? So that's two in a row, like I guess references. All right. Yeah, you have to pressure him and force him to make these throws where you're just like, what were you thinking right there? Like there was one that it was a play where, the play got wiped out because of roughing the passer, but Josh Allen literally threw it like right into the defender's hands, and it's just like, my goodness, man, as much as he's progressed as far as what he's seeing on the field, he still is at a point where he's having the same struggles that he did as soon as he came in the league. So it's going to be important and vital that, obviously, look, we sound like broken records. Don't turn the ball over. Keep him in the pocket and make him throw the ball. I mean, that's the only way to really do it. And, goodness gracious, I'm happy that John Brown is not playing in this game, honestly.
What's funny is yards wise, his best game of the season. Tied. He has 2 games of 415 yards. One against Miami and the other against the Seahawks. The Seahawks sacked him 7 times in that game.
Yeah.
So the Bills
was that Carlos Dunlap's? Was that Carlos Dunlap's first game?
It might have been. Let me look at the box score.
He's really making an impact over there. That really stinks.
Yeah, Carlos Dunlap had 1 sack. Jaron Reed had 2.5 sacks. Dunlap had 1 sack, 2 quarterback hits.
Yeah.
So Josh Allen, I said it on this podcast earlier in the year. After week 3, Josh Allen was probably an MVP candidate. He started the first 3 games of the season with 10 touchdowns, 1 interception. He's kind of slowed down a bit. Yeah. He's coming off back-to-back pretty pedestrian games. The Cardinals, they throw the ball a lot. He has his attempts in order this season: 46, 35, 33, 34, 41, 27, 43, 18 against New England, 38, 49, and then 24 against the Chargers. So he's going to throw the ball a lot. However, the last 2 weeks, Arizona, he had 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. And then against the Chargers, he had 1 touchdown, 1 interception. So he's, in terms of him, he's in a bit of a slump. He's not going to torch you running. You have to watch for the run option. He's not going to torch you as much. His most yards in a game is 61. That took 11 carries to get.
Right, and that's what I was going to say, too. I think that the Allen running thing is a little bit overstated because they do run some design stuff for him, but he's averaging like 4 per carry. And I know that doesn't mean anything because he's not supposed to be averaging a bunch, but running quarterbacks don't tend to just average 4 per. That's not really good. Like, if that was a running back, you would say that's bad.
Yeah, I mean, 4 is where you want to be about as a running back. But if you compare that to, let's see here, Kyler Murray, his current rushing average per attempt is 6.7. So that's a whole 2 yards more per carry compared to Josh Allen. So Josh Allen, there's a difference. Kyler Allen will beat you in yard. He can beat you in terms of running the ball. He's not a running quarterback, though. He averages 3.8 yards per carry. He can use his legs if he needs to, but he's not going to be a guy who's going to try and get a lot of yardage on the ground like a Kyler Murray, I guess to an extent a Russell Wilson type as well. So they're going to use that option, and we know the Niners' history against mobile quarterbacks. I'm not horribly worried about Josh Allen's running ability as much as I am his big play ability. He has a very, very big arm, and that was one of the things. That was one of the things that coming out of the draft. I mean, I get we kind of talked about it yesterday prepping the show, but could you imagine a quarterback like Josh Allen in a Kyle Shanahan system? Excuse me.
Right. It's funny because there was a story that came out. I guess it was a Kyle quote that came out that said that he wanted him to come out a year earlier, but they had Garoppolo or something like that. So it kind of sent shockwaves through Twitter where Josh Allen doesn't profile as a Kyle guy, right? So maybe there is no Kyle guy. That's important, that helps when it comes to for all the people that are like, well, can he evaluate quarterbacks? It doesn't seem like he has anything that's prototypical that he wants to see. And the fact that he even said that about Josh Allen shows me that he at least values the athleticism and he sees everything else as well too. So that should make people feel good. But, to your point about his arm and everything, yeah, we know that, it's really just about, I feel like I'm more scared about him running when the play is off schedule, right? Like if we can't keep contained and he's able to keep drives going, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5, because he's a big man. He can, he can power through and get to where he needs to. That's really where it's not really the design runs at this point that I'm as worried about. It's really the off schedule plays like that. So if he's able to, sustain drives with those back-breaking 3rd down runs, that's when I get a little bit concerned, because then, your defense stays out there longer. That's when you start to tire, So that's what I'm really interested to see as far as this defense goes with that. I feel like coverage-wise, the 49ers have enough to get it done this week with Stephon Diggs, who I love, and Cole Beasley, honestly, at this point. And Gabriel Davis is no slouch either, man. He's actually played really well. You know what I noticed, too, in the Chargers game is the first touchdown they had was actually a Cole Beasley pass. It was to Gabriel Davis. So, they have a little bit of trickery in there. The offense isn't humming along as it was earlier. So that's what's really like, when you look down the schedule and you say, oh, look at the Bills, that's probably a tough game. But when you realize week to week where they've been going and where they've been trending, this game's a lot closer than it would have been, a few weeks ago.
Yeah. And one thing too, worth noting, the Bills offensive line is very good. Keeping Josh Allen clean. However, David Lombardi tweeted, notable Bills weakness. Right guard Brian Winters ranks dead last among qualifying NFL guards in PFF's pass blocking efficiency. 25 pressures allowed. So this could be a Kinlaw game. This could be a game where Kinlaw might create some pressure. And if they can create pressure from the middle, because the edges, like we've been talking about Saleh and his defensive, prowess and all that. The Niners have been able to create some pretty decent pressure without Bosa and without Ford. So, the edges should be able to get pressure. Now, if they can get pressure coming up the middle, because we've talked about it, Kinlaw's not a huge pressure guy. I still believe he's better. He's pretty good in the run compared to the pass. This could be a game for Kinlaw. See what he can do against this offensive line, especially if he's lining up against Winters. So, I'm really curious to see how Josh Allen handles the Niners defense. And for me, I know it sounds really cliche by saying, hey, this game's going to come down to quarterback play. Josh Allen's going to take the Bills as far as they can go. I really think the Niners offense, the way Shanahan schemes things, I know they had the pick six. I know the Niners offense only scored 16 points against the Rams defense. I'm curious to see how he alters it, because this is the worst team against the run the Niners have faced this year outside of the Dolphins. And that Dolphins game, they had to abandon the run really quick because they were behind 21-3 really quick before they really even got into an offensive groove. So I'm going to be curious to see if Josh Allen can play well against this Niners defense, because I think he's going to have to. I think he's not going to get a lot of opportunities. As I said last week, this is really going to come to the Niners shortening the game. I think Josh Allen's going to have less pass attempts than he usually is going to see, because the Niners offense, I think the Niners offense is going to I think they're going to win the time of possession battle.
Yeah, well, they have to, and this is going to be the game plan, for the week, for going the rest of the year pretty much until, whoever is going to wind up coming back. That week to week, the game plan isn't going to fluctuate much. It's just, this week it's against an offense that is going to be better than the offenses you're about to see. So it's the Bills, and then, Washington, and then, Dallas, and then you get right back into the saddle with Arizona and Seattle. So, I think that this game is more of a litmus test to see where this team is at, the 49ers, because like we said, it's not a must win, right? It's not a conference game. I think that this would be a great win to show where this team is going, and in the face of adversity and everything, right? Like all of that stuff matters, but realistically, this isn't a must win, but this is a really good litmus test to see where this team is right now, as far as, how we view them right now, right? Like as excited as we are with this potential playoff run, I think this would be a really good indicator as to see how this football team is going to operate with Nick Mullins for whatever period we have him, with this newfound optimism. So, I'm just super interested in this game. Honestly, this is one that could go either way, and I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, what's curious is you're interested in this game. Vegas is also very interested in this game, because the
line is moved, right?
The line is even. This is a pick 'em. This is a straight pick 'em. Yeah. So I mean, This is one of those games where I just think the Niners match up very well. Their strengths are what the Bills' weaknesses are. And at least offensively for the 49ers, the Niners' offensive strengths are the Bills' defensive weaknesses. And I would take the Niners' defense against really any offense in the NFL. I know they allowed 27 points to the Saints, but they played a very good game against the Saints.
Yeah, but that's not in context though. That's just them. That's them being on the field too long off of turnovers. Like those are all those things. Honestly, like it's not. That's not like a game where they got like taken to the woodshed.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Is the 27 points kind of lies a bit. I made the point of the field position for the Saints on their scoring drives. In the Packers game, that's just Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams on a short week, and that was the COVID game. They gave up 37 to Seattle, but I mean that's Seattle. Seattle's going to do that. Seattle puts up a lot of points, but the defense is really coming into its own. And so I'm really interested to see, because this is probably their biggest test since the Green Bay game, since the Seattle game. And yeah, I think this is going to be a good football game in the first ever Chris Berman Bowl.
Nice. So does that count as a reference, or is that just like,
that's just me saying it.
Okay.
That's just me saying it. I'm trying to make it work.
Right. But for the people who are scoring at home, like, does that count as one official, or is that you like,
that's just me. I don't know. You can count it as you want.
I mean, you kind of circled the point there.
I circled it just like no one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. I knew exactly what you were doing there, and I caught it. So this I'm interested to see how this game is going to play out. And something that we need to touch on too is this game's being played in Arizona.
Okay.
The last time the Bills played in Arizona, fun fact, they lost to the Cardinals, because usually you play in a city of a team who plays in that city. So the last time they were in Arizona, they played the Cardinals. The Cardinals won on that Hail Mary. So maybe that has something to do with something. Maybe it has nothing to do with anything. Just something to talk about. The game being in Arizona, it's a little different. I guess it's a little bit less of a travel for the Bills, save a few miles.
How could you not call it the Hail Murray though? Why'd you get so mad by that?
I'm not a big pun guy. I'm not a big pun guy.
Listen, puns are what's going to get this show to the next level. So we've got to work on that one.
So just how much do you think? Because Shanahan touched on a little bit of the mental health side with the Niners players, because they're in a situation where they might not get to spend Christmas with their family, all that stuff, having to pretty much, I guess the way I compared it on Wednesday was it's like the 49ers as a team got traded mid-season. They have to pack things up and go move. In terms of physically, though, like, do you think this is going to impact them as a team?
No, I'll tell you why. So, from watching the press conference today, listening to Robert Saleh, listening to Kyle Shanahan, listening to the players, they all seem very locked in. Like, this is almost like, can be viewed as a good thing, like a me against the world type thing, right? Like, if you ever needed extra motivation, right? Unfortunately, these guys are human beings, right? Like, you feel for Raheem Mostert, like, crying after the game. He has a newborn baby. Like, I had to spend, I want to say, like, maybe 4 or 5 days away from my newborn daughter for work, and I wanted to die. Like, imagine, like, that long, so you have to feel for all these guys. But yeah, I think that they have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, and they're going to use it to focus in on the job. They really can't do too much, unfortunately. They're not even really allowed to hang out with each other. Kyle Shanahan has designated certain players to watch over the mental health of guys, make sure that nobody's slipping or anything like that. This all sounds like a team that's focused, locked in on the job, understand that they have a chance to really do something here with their playoff run. And the best way to forget what you're worried about is to lock in the work. That's usually how I work. Not everybody does, but this team seems to be led in the right direction. And I like where their focus has been, like listening to Jimmy Ward speak today and having him say, Yeah, I had 2 turnovers last week. Who cares? Let's do it next game. Like, that's really what you want to hear. And these guys all seem locked in. They're very close knit. Like you said, just listen to how Nick Mullins talked about Jamar Taylor. Robert Saleh talked about him today too, in just as much as glowing fashion, being as truthful as saying, I was scared to put him on Cooper Kupp the first time we played the Rams, and he played exceptional. And he said for him to go down like that, it was hurtful. Like, this team is really close. This team seems like it has everything going for them as far as being focused, and this team really knows that all of it is right there in front of them. So I'm not as worried, honestly. I think that this team is built to do this.
Yeah, and people, like, just kind of in a general sense, people forget that athletes are human beings, right? Like, when the NBA was talking about the bubble, and people were saying, "Oh, well, it's their job; they can do this." It's still, it's time away from family. It's things like that, and it takes effect on everybody. So, like, for people saying it's not that big of a deal, they're used to it. No, it's still 3 weeks being away from family, being away from the people you love. So, as a whole, it's obviously going to be a thing for the 49ers, but I guess a positive thing is looking at this, because it's a really bad situation. I mean, I'm drawing a blank. San Francisco, I forget what county it's in. The chat's going to tell me.
Santa Clara?
No, San Francisco's not in Santa Clara County.
Sorry.
San Francisco might even be San Francisco County. I don't know what county San Francisco's in. I'm drawing a blank. They just gave the okay to the Warriors for playing games in San Francisco. So it's really interesting to see differences in counties, because Santa Clara and San Francisco counties are right next to each other, and the Niners are having to move. So I guess the only small thing that really is a ray of positivity is at least the Niners are going to a city and a stadium they're familiar with. They go there every year. So I mean, I guess there's a little bit of a routine for this team in terms of being in Arizona, because, like, some of the names being floated around, Oakland, they were talking about the Coliseum. I know San Diego made a thank you, Anthony. San Francisco is San Francisco County. Oakland was being floated. I floated Sacramento State because I live in Sacramento. San Diego made an effort to get them, even though I don't think they have a stadium. So at least that's a small thing that the Niners can take, is this is a stadium they're used to. They kind of have a routine here. Shanahan's played at the stadium. This will be his 5th time now. Next week will be 6th. So it's a positive in this, because this is a really bad situation for not just the 49ers, as for California as a whole. We're back in that purple range. A lot of restaurants are closing down again. So not to lose sight on just what it means for, I know this is a 49er specific podcast, what this means for the state of California as for everybody. But in the sense of the 49ers, it's something that's going to affect them mentally, I think, but at least it's a place where they're going to be able to have somewhat of a routine still. So that's my little rant on it. It's a really bad situation for everybody involved, I think.
Yeah. I mean, and it's all the other outside noise, like with the actual county and what they've been saying about the 49ers values. It's so petty, like, I'm not going to get into all of that, but it's like, you're asking people to displace from where they are during the holidays, right? Like, and then I thought that Richard Sherman really dropped the mic on the whole situation when he talked about, well, the COVID has taken jobs away. COVID has people, in a bad situation. And if we were allowed to be there, we would be giving back to the community. And I felt like that was so impactful. And I think that that's the stuff that when you get stupid and petty about whatever it is, that you forget. Like, these guys give back, to the community. There's plenty of people that it may not be a big deal for you because you're in a better spot, that really look forward to those sort of things. Not only just to see the player, but because they actually need the assistance. And I think that's the stuff that is being lost in the sauce here, on top of the fact that these people are going to be away from their family. So it's just a petty situation all around. And I really just wish people would consider all of the ramifications of their decision, as opposed to just making a swift decision in the spirit of being petty.
And my question is, I guess my 2 biggest questions in terms of this, and I don't want to get too deep into it, because I feel like we're teetering into politics, which I'm trying not to do. Like, we don't need to do that. Not that I don't think sports don't belong in politics, because I think it does. First of all, Santa Clara realizes they're forcing the Niners to go to a county, Maricopa County in Arizona, that is significantly worse at dealing with COVID than Santa Clara County is. I think the numbers were significantly higher. I think they were averaging twice as many positive tests than Santa Clara County. I know their per 1,000 people is significantly higher. So like on their conscious decision, like they're forcing a team out. So my second question is, if they cared, like, and maybe I'm just trying to make a big hubbub out of nothing, because my dad has asked me this question. If they cared so much about what professional sports and COVID do, because the Niners haven't had any fans, anything, why didn't the county step in and say, wait, there's positive tests for this Packer game, we're not hosting this? Why couldn't they? Why is now the line? Because it's getting more serious, because California and the country as a whole, this isn't just a California thing, is we've done this thing where the numbers start to decline a bit, and we as a country, we as a state, we as a county has said, we're going to start opening things up again. And then all of a sudden the numbers spike, and now we got to go back into shutdowns. Why didn't they recognize that the Niners had a couple positive tests? I know, albeit false positives, and the Packers had a positive test coming out of it. Why didn't the county step in? Why did not the county step in and say, this Thursday night game is not happening within our county? Why is it now more serious?
Yeah.
I'm not really looking for an answer there. That's just kind of my question, because I don't expect Jason Aponte to know the answer to that really deep political question.
Nope.
So that's just kind of my whole thing on like the county. And I know the Niners, Jed York specifically, has had issues with Santa Clara County. It's just all a cluster, and I don't think anybody really wants to take it seriously until they have to take it seriously, like Santa Clara is doing. They have to take it seriously because the numbers are spiking again. So it's not as much a Santa Clara complaint. It's more of a how this country's dealt with COVID complaint. But that's really it. Do you want to talk about football again? Because that's why we're here.
Look, well said, Andrew. Yeah, let's talk about football. It's cool, man. We're good. So, I think, you know what? I mean, we're already at about 40 minutes. I mean, we could start asking, like in about maybe 10 minutes, we could start, answering some questions. So if you guys want to get your questions in, so we can answer them for the end of the show, please do. Right now, that's why we're not as responsive. You guys know the deal now. Audio podcast, live streaming, but, neither here nor there. Are we getting closer to prediction? Who's going to win? Or, are we talking more of the film still?
I got a question. Stephon Diggs. What do you think he's going to do? Because the last time he came to Santa Clara, he was a part of the Minnesota Vikings.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't do great. I think that partially has to do with the quarterback who was throwing him the ball. Kirk Cousins, not my favorite quarterback.
He's your favorite.
Do you see him? Taysom Hill's my favorite quarterback. I don't know what you're talking about.
My God. I'm telling Jameis.
Do you see Stephon Diggs having a bigger game with both Brown out and a better arm in Josh Allen?
So I understand the hesitance, right? DeAndre Hopkins killed the 49ers. Davante Adams killed the 49ers. Number one wide receivers usually come in and they kill the 49ers, right? Here's the context I think that people are missing. Who was covering Davante Adams in that game primarily? It was Emmanuel Mosley, right? Jason Verrett didn't shadow him. Who got killed by DK Metcalf? It was Emmanuel Mosley. Jason Verrett really didn't get over there. Same thing with DeAndre Hopkins. It wasn't Sherman over there. Yeah. So I think now, with Stephon Diggs, even if Sherman occupies that left side by himself, is about to see two, in a row, on either side, corners that can cover him one-on-one. So I think that this time it's a little bit different, and not having John Brown there allows them to, put a little bit more attention on him, because we know that Cole Beasley operates in the intermediate underneath. So I understand the worry about Stephon Diggs because he's great, but the two corners that are going to be out there this week, should do a better job than we've done against number one wide receivers this week.
Yeah, and I'm curious because it looked like Sherman was back to floating on the left side of the defense. I'm curious to see because God, why am I drawing a blank on who the Rams? The Rams necessarily don't have a number one receiver. It's kind of a 1.5 sort of thing with Kupp and Woods. Stephon Diggs is a true number one receiver, and I mean he's on pace to beat his best season in Minnesota. He's only 22 receptions off his career high. He could get that in 5 weeks. He's about 200 yards off his career high. He could do that on Monday.
Yep.
So he's having a good year. So I'm curious to see First of all, if Sherman's going to follow Diggs, and I'm curious to see if we see a little more Sherman in the safety spot, because we saw a little bit of it against the Rams.
And I love how coy he was when they asked him about it today. He was like, I don't know what you're talking about. When they asked him about moving to safety. Dude. Yeah, he was like, I don't know what you're talking about. So, yeah, it was good.
So I'm personally interested because Stephon Diggs is one of my favorite receivers in the league.
Me too.
I'm real happy he's out of Minnesota.
I mean, look what happens when you actually target him a bunch and actually throw the ball his way. Like, we all knew he was a great route runner, but he was just underutilized because they don't throw the ball as much in Minnesota. Not that that's even a Kirk thing. That's just a philosophy thing that Minnesota would do no matter who was there. So, his no cousin slander.
His career high in targets is 102, which was 2018, which I think was Cousins' first year in Minnesota. But they used him significantly less last year. 94 targets. He played the same amount of games. I'm just curious because I think Diggs is way up there. In terms of I probably have him rated a little higher than others. And then Tre'Davious White as well. I guess he's the biggest player on defense to worry about. I don't know how much of a factor he's going to be because I don't think the Niners are going to throw the ball down the field too much. I really think that this is going to be a big extended run game, a lot of end arounds, some screens, some 2-yard slant routes, just get the ball in the receiver's hands and try and let Debo and Ayuk cook a little.
Yeah, I mean, and I think for sure that's what's going to happen. I mean, honestly, Tre'Davious White had a tough time with Keenan Allen this week, but we all know Keenan Allen's one of the best route runners in this league. I don't think that the 49ers have either Debo or Ayuk who can run routes just like him. Sorry, that's not just, that's just an assessment. That's nothing, but that's not how they plan to attack, right? Like, you don't want to throw the ball towards Tre'Davious White. You want to keep it away from him. You want to attack Wallace and you want to attack, whoever's on that other side. So, a lot of slants, a lot of throws behind the line, a lot of jet sweeps, all that stuff. Can you keep your eye on the ball and make sure who's got it? That's been, it's funny, right? Like, the 49ers do this every week and teams still can't figure it out. And, everybody feels like, oh yeah, we know to stop it. Well, you guys have been trying to stop it and you can't, and this is only going to be the second time that we're going to see, Ayuk, Mostert and Debo on the field at the same time. So,
yeah. So I guess we're at a point where we're predictions, and then I have a question for you that I floated in the group chat. I don't know if you saw it. So predictions, as I said, the line is even. So this is a straight up pick. Who you got?
I got the Niners, man. Like, I mean, it's not even because of recency bias or anything like that and what's been going on, with this team and the way they looked, honestly. I just really like this matchup. Really helps the Smokey Brown's not there. The running backs for the Bills are, they're utilized in the running game, but they're also, just like safety valves for Josh Allen. Like around the goal line, maybe Zach Moss gets 1 or 2 goal line touches, but it's usually Josh Allen just barreling into the line, So that's really what they want to do. As long as the 49ers, I hate to sound like a broken record, can run the ball, take care of time possession, do not turn the ball over, the 49ers should win this game. And I think that they have a really good chance to win this game, and I feel good about picking them.
I have a really spicy take. I'm reverting back to our hot take.
Here we go.
The 49ers average 326 yards per game. The Niners average 382 yards per game. The Bills average 387.8 per game. I think I don't want to say this number because I think it's too high, so I'll lower it. I think the 49ers get 450 yards of total offense.
Woo, that's a lot. If they get 450, they're going to win this game by a lot.
I can see the run because the Bills average 130 allowed per game on the ground. I could see the Niners getting 200, especially if Mostert can gash a big one pretty early on. I could see the Niners getting 200 rushing yards in this game. So now you're looking at 250 passing yards, and I'm putting a lot on Ayuk and Debo in the yards after catch here. I think
that's what we talked about when we were watching the film, right? Like, we were looking at it and we were like, oh, look at that hole. And we were like, all right, Eckler got 5. Well, Mostert gets 17 off of those runs. Like, so that's really the difference.
So I'm going to say 450 total yards as a team. And to put that in context, let's see if I could find it real quick. See if the Niners have even hit 450 yards in a game this year. Total offense, the 49ers hit 467 against the Patriots. There you go.
And that was the Jeff Wilson game.
That was a Jeff Wilson game, a game where they got 197 rushing yards. So there's my hot take with that, with my bold prediction on this game. 49ers. 49ers are going to win this game. They're going to cover the spread. Woo! The even spread. Since the spread's even, I'll throw the over-under. It's sitting at 47.5. I'm going to go over. I'm going to take the over. I'm a big over guy. So there you go. My question, and this is when I want you guys on the chat to start throwing questions in. I asked this in the group chat. Do we as 49ers fans, do we want the Cardinals to beat the Rams? And let me explain. I know the Niners are 1 game behind the Cardinals in the playoff hunt. They are 2 games behind the Rams in the playoff game, or in the playoff hunt. If the Niners win and the Cardinals beat the Rams, the Niners are 1 game behind the Rams for that last playoff spot. And the reason I specifically say we cheer for the Cardinals, the Niners have the tiebreaker over the Rams. So if they tie with the Rams, or if they tie with the Cardinals, as it stands, the Cardinals would have the tiebreaker and they'd get the playoff spot. However, if they tie with the Rams, the Niners have that 2-0 record. This isn't a fully developed thought. That's why I wanted to float it out there. Is there part of you that makes sense to you? Or is that something like, no, the Cardinals are the best chance?
So to answer your question, are we rooting for the Rams or Cardinals to lose? The answer is yes.
Okay.
Because I don't know, I know that they're going to be playing each other this week, and it's like, I mean, honestly, when it comes to all that tiebreaker stuff, I think that, the reason that I'm not really thinking of it that way is because the 49ers really have their destiny in their hands.
Yes.
Just pretty much win, and get in,
Okay.
And I think that's really what it is. So with that, I haven't really crunched the numbers. I know there's a whole bunch of possibilities and what needs to happen, but if the 49ers take care of business, Washington, Dallas, Arizona, Seattle, then they should be looking at a good spot. Obviously, 10-6 makes you feel better. 9-7 probably gets you into the dance, but 10-6 probably most assuredly gets you in. So,
and that was Shanahan's answer too. Shanahan was asked about it.
Okay.
And he said something along the lines of I'm not focused on it. All I'm focused on is 10 wins get you in the playoffs.
That's it. That's really what it should be, honestly, at this point, especially since the 49ers aren't fighting for any sort of home field advantage, since everything is going to be pretty much neutral site, like this game is. I think that's another thing that sort of helps the 49ers. What's their record in neutral site games? I guess those are all Super Bowls, right? But that's what I'm talking about with this playoff thing. That's why this year, of all the years, it really is just get into the dance. Seriously, at this point, it's just to get in.
Well, as I said Wednesday, if they get into the dance, oh hi Jimmy Garoppolo, hi George Kittle, you guys are back, and now all of a sudden it's wide open.
Right.
So that's really my thing. So yeah, I guess that's the right answer. Just cheer for 49ers wins and hope everything else falls into place.
That's it.
We will take your questions now for about the next 10 minutes. Jason, do you have anything you saw?
I do. So we have a question from Matt Moses. Do we think that Kittle is going to get surgery or come back if we make the playoffs? If we make the playoffs, George Kittle is going to be there. And if we're in any sort of position to make the playoffs, George Kittle is going to be there. It's just the type of person he is.
Yeah, I think Kittle will probably get surgery in the offseason. You have a whole 6 months to recover from it. If Kittle thinks he's healthy, Kittle's playing in the playoffs.
For sure. East Bay Chris with an actual question. I like this. If the 49ers fight back and make their way to the playoffs, would you say this has been a better season than last year? So that's a really interesting point. What I think he means by that is this team is fighting through an insane amount of adversity, right? Mm-hmm. So this season, right, they'd have to earn this playoff spot. The 49ers kind of coasted last year. They pretty much just beat everybody on the way to this, right? Everything kind of fell right. This year, I think that I would be more prideful in this year because everything has gone wrong and this team found a way to lift itself into the playoffs, and that's what really good teams do. So in a way, yes, I would be much more proud of this season because of how hard it was with everything considered. Yeah,
I would probably say, because really the only suspense at last year was that week 17 game. Who decides, the winner wins the NFC West against a first round bye. That was really the only suspense in terms of how, obviously last year was way more fun. But this year, just something about this year, if they can grit and grind and get into the playoffs, it's going to be something special. I really do think that because of how many injuries this team has dealt with as well. So yeah, I would say this year is probably a little more impressive than last year's.
Right. Like I completely understand that thought. And I thought I saw it in here. I'm trying to scroll through, but as far as surgery goes for Kittle, it's not about the foot, it's about the labrum, the torn labrum that he refuses to get surgery on. I think that's what everybody was talking about. And that's what I would like, if the 49ers would have lost the game against the Rams, me in my mind as a team, I would have said, go get it fixed. Now you definitely have more time to get it fixed. And, we know what's more important than having him fully healthy the entire way. So I think that's what it was. It wasn't the foot. Let's see. So how about this? So Vince Felice asks, fellas, if Nick Mullins wins the next 3 games, do you start Jimmy the last 2? You know what, Andrew? I'm going to let you go first because that's really interesting. Like 49ers Twitter is going to devour itself if this happens.
No one circles the wagons like Jimmy Garoppolo. No, Jimmy Garoppolo would be the starter the last 2 games. Jimmy Garoppolo is the starter. Jimmy Garoppolo is the starter. By the way, Jimmy Garoppolo is the starter. Nick Mullins can go 3-0 with 3 perfect passer rating games. Shanahan trusts Jimmy more than I think he trusts Mullins at that point, especially with 2 divisional games. Garoppolo is more often than not nails. Okay, I know we really lost that narrative because of the Super Bowl, but you look at Jimmy Garoppolo in fourth quarters last season, you look at him in clutch moments last season, he came through more often than he did not. Jimmy Garoppolo is a starter the second he gets healthy. I don't care how good Nick Mullins plays the rest of the season. Jimmy Garoppolo, and that is not a knock against Nick Mullins. That is not a knock against Nick Mullins. It's just Jimmy Garoppolo is the starter of this team.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, nothing else needs to be said. But yeah, it's going to be such an interesting discussion if something like that happens. It almost would be par for the course that Nick Mullins had 3 straight impressive games, right? And then it's time for Jimmy to come back. And then Niners Twitter can it'll be like Darth Vader again. I mean, it'll be like Anakin Skywalker against Obi-Wan in Revenge of the Sith. And whoever has the high ground is going to get the other person. Yep. So it's like, it'll be finally what 49ers Twitter really likes, really wants. So,
I believe Jordan's his name, Splash Cousin. Yeah. I think that's Jordan. He has a very interesting alternate question to that. What happens if Mullins wins 3 in a row and Jimmy loses the next 2? Whose fault is that? That is on Kyle Shanahan because he would make the switch. However, I curious if this is the case. I'm curious to see what the chat says. How would you feel about that? Because for me, it happens. The Niners go out their last 2 games with their best shot. I think Jimmy Garoppolo gives them their best shot to win football games. So, would you necessarily blame Kyle Shanahan for that? Because he's picking his best players. Jimmy Garoppolo is better than Nick Mullins. I would not. The blame would go on Shanahan, yes, but it's a decision that has to be made, right?
Yeah, I would think just from the money standpoint and everything and what we know, and I think that it's got to be Jimmy because basically if you don't go back to Jimmy when he's ready, you basically tank almost any of his value. Just goes to show that he lost his job to Nick Mullins. That doesn't really help either. So I don't know. It depends, man. That's a really interesting conversation, one that we will table for now because the first part has to actually happen where Mullins plays 3 straight and he wins really well before we can even get there. So
that'll be a conversation for the Arizona game if we get there.
Right. Exactly. Okay. Sid from YouTube's asked, if Jimmy does well and helps out in the playoffs, what does that do to draft strategy in 2021? I don't think it changes that. The 49ers will still have to trade up, and I think that they're pretty much dead set on getting their new dude, whoever it is at quarterback.
Yeah, I don't think it changes much. Really, to me, the only way things really, really change is if Garoppolo comes in week 16 and he plays like an MVP caliber guy and wins a Super Bowl. I think that's the only way. We're talking consistent.
Jimmy would have to set the world on fire.
Yeah, I'm talking consistent 300-yard games, consistent 3 touchdown, consistent no mistakes, and it goes through into a Super Bowl title. That's really the only way I see Jimmy Garoppolo being the option, the number 1 choice for next season. And Could that happen? Hypothetically, yes. I heard a very fun question because a lot of people think the Steelers at 11-0 are slightly overrated, which I could say they are. Who wins, the 2020 Pittsburgh Steelers are the last 6 weeks of 2017 San Francisco 49ers? That's a fun question.
Oh wow! You thought about the Jimmy led.
That's the Jimmy led. The immovable object meets the unstoppable force.
You know what's funny is you go back and you watch all that, and it's like, man, all that stuff that we've been complaining about these last few weeks, he was like doing it then.
We were so hyped for a quarterback who had 7 touchdowns and 5 interceptions in 5 games.
Yep.
So hyped. That's how bad it was. I saw a question from Kali up there. Actually, you guys think we see more of Sherman playing safety? I'm gonna have a cop out answer and say we'll see whatever Robert Saleh wants us to see. I think that's the answer.
I think, like I said, it goes back to what Sherm said, like him playing coy at the press conference because they did ask him about it. And he said, I don't know what you're talking about. I just play football or whatever. So, I think that like, we said on Wednesday's show, I feel like that's one of two things. It's either Sherm trying to figure out how he fits a safety with this team or just trying to figure out how safety looks and he's going to be playing that for somebody else or wants to at least get that under his belt so he can move whenever he wants to that position. But Robert Saleh when he was talking about Sherman today, he talked about the interception. And he talked about, and it's funny because the parallel, someone paired it with a Javon Kinlaw, because Javon Kinlaw is such a ball hawk now. They asked him about Sherman's interception and he said, yeah, that came on man, but he played with his eyes. And he was like, and not many people can play with their eyes and go back. He knew what route he was getting and he peeled off for the interception and he knew what he was going to be seeing there. He goes, with Kinlaw, it was a little bit like he was tired on that play because he's played a little bit too much. He said, but his instincts are great. And, and he said, as you're seeing that he's doing it week to week. So I thought it was really funny how he tied both of those things together, but Sherman seems like he's down to do whatever he wants for this team and he's happy to be here. So I think that's the most important part.
Yeah. The idea of Sherman to free safety is an interesting one that I really think if the Niners I think that if the Niners bring Sherman back, I think it'll be to be a free safety.
I mean, it has to be. He can't play strong safety. The what it does to you to play strong safety, how much you have to like hit and play in the box, that wouldn't be good for him. He has to play free safety.
Yeah, because we've talked about it a lot, what his future is with the 49ers. And I think as a cornerback, I think they're happy with what's next year? I almost said 2019 is next year. 2021. I think they're happy with the idea of Mosley and Verrett and Kwan. So now how does Sherman fit? And maybe that's how he fits. I'm not saying I don't think the Niners are going to use Sherman too much at safety. I don't think so. But if they do bring him back for 2021, I think we might see him more in that situation.
I like the idea of him messing around with it because one, he's smart enough to do it. Mm-hmm. It's not really going to put you in a bad spot. Like, it's not like you're just trying to smash a peg into a circle hole. Like, Sherm's got the instincts to do it. And I think that it also helps because it lets you know, what if Kwan becomes too expensive, right? What if Kwan commands, a ton of money on the open market and the 49ers can't bring him back? He is 30, right? He's injured a bunch, like I love what he does on the field, but, the 49ers have a tough of these tough decisions, a ton of these tough decisions to make. So, that if you get to see what other people look like, then you have an idea of how you can construct your secondary with, whoever you wind up bringing back. So, yeah, I mean, that's the other thing that I would say.
Yeah, the Niners have a lot of interesting choices to make this offseason. Obviously, I'm not too worried about it because Niners have playoffs to worry about right now. So,
and you spoke it into existence. This is you. This is really you.
Hey, it feels good to be, one of the few podcasts that definitely didn't jump the tank because we've never really sat there and said, hey, the Niners should tank or really go either way. But it felt good on yesterday because it was the first time I saw my boss. I saw him Thursday or Wednesday before, Thanksgiving. And I said, if the Niners beat the Rams, I'm all in on this playoff push. Mm-hmm. And first thing he did, he came up to me and said, hey, I thought of you on Sunday. Niners won. So are you all in? And I'm like, here's my podcast link, sir. Listen to this podcast and listen to us talk playoffs. So, so definitely, yeah. So it's really fun. I'm really excited to see where this goes. For me too, like if they don't make the playoffs, the fact that with how many injuries they've had and in December they're playing for a playoff spot to me, it's already kind of like a small moral victory. And as a fan, I can have moral victories. As a team, they're probably more focused on getting to the playoffs. But the fact they're in a spot with the amount of injuries they've had to make the playoffs is insane to me. And it makes me happy to be a 49er fan that they easily could have punted the season after Bosa and Garoppolo and Kittle and all these guys go down. They're still making moves. They tried to bring in Takk McKinley. Like, this is a team that's still trying to make a push for the playoffs, and it makes me happy. It makes me happy to have a fan base, or excuse me, a front office that is willing to, even when it looks hard, the road is hard, they're still trying to make moves to do it, because I know a lot of teams in this league may not do that, so it makes me happy as a 49er fan to see that. Did you have any questions you saw on the side before we wrap this up? We're at about an hour.
I think the last thing I wanted to say is I wanted to give a shout out to one of our listeners. Happy birthday to Mariah Lee. Always supporting us, big supporter of the show, always here. So I just wanted to make sure that, we let her know that we hope she enjoyed her birthday as best she could.
Yep, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Happy birthday, Mariah. And I guess that's where we will end it. We will be back on Wednesday. We might have a thing cooking for Tuesday, especially if the Niners win. We will reveal that when we want to. It won't be anything related to the show. We've done something like it in the past.
Maybe something a little bit fun. We've done something once like this in the past. Jason, I know I usually ask you to say it, but I want to say it this time. You say it.
Jason, no one circles the wagons like the Arizona 49ers.
He got me again. I feel like I just got rickrolled.
Anyway, so thank you guys very much, and go 49ers.
Go Niners.